Okay. Lost my thing. The time is now 5:45. I'd like to call the hearing to order. Spencer County Board of Education will hold a public hearing in the boardroom at 110 Reeser Avenue in Taylorsville, Kentucky on August 26, 2024 at 5:54 p.m. to hear public comments regarding the proposed general fund tax levy of 59.8 cents on real property and 59.8 cents on personal property. Let's move on. We have no one has turned in anything to speak. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to the tax? Then where's Greg?
We have Mr.
Greg,
Murphy here tonight to share some information.
Since you are here, could you share some information for us in this time?
Mr. Murphy, you might need to turn that on, I think. Pull it toward you. Yep.
Is that one on? Pull it toward you. Yes.
Yeah.
Test. All right. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me through that? Okay, good. Since we don't have anybody to present, I'm going to take the full time. No, no, this evening you'll be addressing multiple tax rates. You'll address the real estate, the tangible personal rate, the motor vehicle tax rate, and the utility tax rates. That's a lot, but you've done the difficult work 2 weeks ago when we were here for the work session. So in the work session, we looked at various rate options. We noted that the most common and the least common rates that are levied across the state. We clarified that the 4% increase rate produces 4% more revenue. It's not a 4% higher tax rate than the prior year. We discussed the exoneration allowance, what that was, and the fact that it's to offset lost revenue from the prior year. And even though it's a small add-on, it's a very important add-on, and that it's highly recommended that you do include that in whatever rate you do choose to levy. So in the work session, we looked at historical rates. We looked at the past tax rates levied over the last 1 to 2 decades. And we discussed that revenue from these property tax rates and the utility taxes comprise about 30% of all of the general fund budget for revenues. So what is being done tonight is very critical to the general fund budget. In the work session, we looked at the adjacent counties. We saw that Anderson County's rate levied last year was just slightly below Spencer County's rate, and Anderson ranked 95th in the state. We saw that the other districts that are shown there ranked between 37th and 57th in the state, and that Spencer County ranks 92nd in the state. We saw that all the adjacent county districts levied tax rates that were 11 to 19 cents higher than Spencer County. So all of our neighboring districts are levying tax rates that are between 11 and 16 cents higher than we have in Spencer County. We noted that all of the adjacent districts levied the 4% increase rate, and Spencer County levied a rate that was rates that were slightly lower than the 4% increase rate. Not much, just slightly lower. We also looked at OVEC's 14 districts. We saw that Grant County was the lowest and ranked 110th in Kentucky. Frankfort Independent was the highest rate in the OVEC districts and ranked 4th in the state. Spencer County ranked 92nd in all of Kentucky's 171 school districts. And in the OVEC districts, Spencer County ranked 13th out of 14 districts. Of the OVEC districts, 8 of those levied the 4% increase rate. And like I just mentioned, Spencer County levied a rate that was just slightly lower than that 4% increase. We spent some time looking at the levied equivalent rate, which is not something that I think you all have looked at in a great degree in the past. The levied equivalent rate is a relative measure of a district's taxing effort when it's looked at on a comparable basis across the state. Of the OVEC districts, Spencer County ranks 14th out of the 14 districts and 124th in the state of Kentucky. So Spencer County's levied equivalent or LEQ rate is 63.8 cents. The highest in OVEC and also in the state of Kentucky was Frankfort Independent, and their levied equivalent rate was 120 cents. This next slide, this next slide is one that we didn't look at 2 weeks ago. I took a look. I had a theory, and as it proved out, it was true, that what has been seen in Spencer County might show a trend. And so Ms. Schaus helped me to compile this information over the past 10 years. And so it just looks at it a little bit differently. This is only Spencer County. It does not show anything but Spencer County in this chart. The top line is the levied equivalent rate, and the bottom line is the ranking among Kentucky school districts. So looking at this, the very beginning, the 67.1 cents in fiscal year 2015, Spencer County ranked 94th in Kentucky. If you fast forward to today, Spencer County's levied equivalent rate of 63.8 cents ranks 124th in the state of Kentucky. So you can see that from 2015 to 2024, you can see how that slides at as far as the rankings among all of Kentucky districts on that bottom line. So 10 years ago, 93 school districts had a higher relative taxing effort than Spencer County. Today, there are 123 school districts in the state of Kentucky that have a higher levied equivalent or higher taxing effort than Spencer County. So certainly the higher property assessments that have been seen, and I don't have that chart tonight again, but you saw it 2 weeks ago, those higher assessments are a big contributing factor to that. I can't say that it accounts for all of it. There are years where the 4% increase rate hasn't been levied by this board, but there are also years that that's not been levied by other school boards, certainly in the state of Kentucky. So it's hard to pin it on one thing. It just is what it is, and I wanted to present this as facts and not really a hypothesis as to a contributing factor. Taking a look at the next slide, in the work session, we looked at historical valuations. The current valuation of property in Spencer County is $1,961,417. Excuse me, let's try that again. $1,961,417,530. And so over the past 7 years that are shown here, that's an increase of $712.6 million, 57% higher than it was 7 years ago. So that is just an indicator of what's going on in Spencer County. We see it every day, and I know you all live it even more than I do. So that last column shows net new property. We discussed that at length in the last meeting. net new property has ended, at least for the time being, has ended its steady increase, and that's mainly due to the $33.1 million of assessed property that has been moved from the Spencer County tax rolls to the Shelby County tax rolls due to boundary issues that we've all heard and discussed. So there's no way of knowing if the roughly 14.5 million of net new property increase will go higher next year. We'll start back. Certainly what happens in the near future with all of those properties, that will have an impact on that, but to what degree it remains to be seen. This next slide, in the work session, we saw that the standard tax rates available are what's shown on this chart. We noted that the prior year tax levies were 60.0 cents, or 60 cents even, plus the 1/10 exoneration allowance for real estate property, and 61.5 cents plus the 1/10 exoneration allowance for tangible personal property. We saw that the rates any rate up to the 4% increase rate of 59.8 cents for real estate and also for tangible personal property are available to the board without being subject to voter recall. Again, we talked about the exoneration allowance. It's available to be added to any tax rate and the wisdom of continuing the practice of doing so. So in the work session 2 weeks ago, we examined the impact of levying various property tax rates all the way from the compensating rate up to the 4% increase rate. We noted that there would, even at the compensating level, because of property taxes increasing, that there would be 118,000 additional revenue with the compensating rate. But we also looked at all the other options up to that, up to the 4%, which would generate about $556,000. We discussed that selecting any rate lower than the 4% increase rate would mean foregoing the additional revenue that would result from that into the future as well, because it is a compounding effect. So the last thing that I want to do is to mention that the board now has to select the tax rates to be levied. I know you all have a lot of things that weigh into your decision, but I just want to point out that, I think that the most important factors should be the needs of the community, the caliber of the school district that we have here and that we want here long after we're all gone. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Foster for this last slide and let him make his recommendation unless there's any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Murphy before I just got a few things to add? Mr. Murphy, thank you, and Ms. Schaus and our finance team for putting together a lot of information while a lot of other things are going on and we're trying to open schools. So just to summarize and make a few points. So to keep in mind, this past year, our tax rate was 60.0 cents on real estate, 61.5 cents for tangible property. Our recommendation this year will increase 4% additional revenue, not a 4% tax rate increase, and lower that rate for residents. Mr. Murphy and I both agree that the 2/10 of a cent exoneration allowance should be part of our recommendation for this year. I do want to put this in perspective. I hope the folks in the audience, anybody that's watching at home, anybody that might read this in the Spencer Magnet, understand for these 5 folks, setting the tax rate is not easy, nor is it fun. And if you're like me, probably every place that you go, somebody wants to talk to you about taxes. And fortunately, folks are very pleasant when they do that. They're not ugly. I don't want to shed that light. But to put this in perspective, what Mr. Murphy just shared, if a homeowner in Spencer County had a home last year and this year that was assessed for $200,000, and we adopt a 4% increase this year, that resident would pay $4 less than they did last year. So we're able to increase our revenue to make things a little easier for us and to continue to grow and expand or to continue to address our growth and not put the burden solely on our local taxpayers. So this year we are going to recommend a 4% increase rate, which we will not vote on until our regular meeting is called to order here shortly in a few minutes. That would generate approximately $11,729,000 or an additional revenue of $556,000 for the general fund. This does assume a 100% collection rate, which is done by the Spencer County Sheriff, Sheriff Scott Herndon. I also want to acknowledge Sheriff Herndon, who is retiring this week. And in my 14 months, he has been a pleasure to work with. We wish him nothing but the best and hope he gets to enjoy retirement for many, many years. I really want to thank him for his service to Spencer County. I also want to say we thank the taxpayers in Spencer County. I can tell you that I can only speak for the last 14 months, but the team that I have the honor and privilege of working with each day in this board, we do take using taxpayer money very seriously and want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So the board will have some final decisions to make here in our regular meeting. The recommendation would be, again, that we increase the residential rate by 4%, but also motor vehicle tax rate to stay at 56 cents, the utility tax rate to stay at 3%, and that we continue to exempt from taxation aircraft, watercraft, and inventory in transit due to the equalization component of the SEEK formula. So, Mr. Murphy, I think we've hit everything that we plan to. Questions from the board? Okay. Anybody else show up to sign up regarding taxes or the tax hearing? I don't know that I noticed anybody that did. I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay. All right. Madam Chair, I think we can adjourn.
Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting at 6:03 PM.
Need a motion for that.
Do we on a hearing? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We'll say Lynn. Do I have a second? Pam? All in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Now at 6:03 PM, I'd like to call to order the regular monthly board meeting, the Spencer County Board of Education. Statement of board mission.
Wasn't ready for that one. So the statement of board mission: by working together, Spencer County School District will make a difference in the lives of all students. Then the vision statement: Spencer County Schools will challenge and support all students to become highly effective individuals.
Like to welcome all of our visitors that are here today. If anyone decides they want to speak, fill out the blue form on the table as you come in, and bring it to me or to Michelle, and she'll get it to me. And right now, I'd like to review and adopt the agenda. Everyone's had a chance to review the agenda. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve the August 26, 2024 agenda as presented?
I'll make that.
Tim, do I have a second?
I'll do it.
Aaron, all in favor? Unanimous? Let's move on to number 5, recognitions. Dr. Foster.
We do, even though it's the first month of school, we do have some student recognitions. I'm always excited to do these. One of the things I would ask the board to join me in changing this year is that one of you join us for pictures each month. I thought the fairest way to start tonight was to start with Mr. Earhart and work this way. So you're lucky tonight. We only have 3.
Pink shirt.
Yes, I love your shirt. But we do have 3 students here. We'll honor them in 2 groups. So first up, we have Miss Haley Goodlett. I saw Haley walk in. Come on up, Haley. And bring that picture with you. So Haley, I'm going to read for a second. Haley competed at the state level in photography for the last 2 years at the National Data Convention. She scored in the top 5 at the state this past school year, qualifying for nationals. Her beautiful piece earned her a national champion title. In addition to photography, she competes in a variety of categories and leads several service projects. Haley demonstrates all the qualities of data through service, leadership, strong character, and academics. So Haley, congratulations. Mr. Mercer is here. I'm going to put him on the spot. Mr. Mercer, anything to add about this young lady or the beta process in general?
Well, I mean, what's impressive is this not a one-time deal. This is back-to-back years and a national accomplishment. She's ranked top 5 in the state back-to-back, and obviously she's extremely talented, and we're very proud of her.
And this is Mom with you. How are you? Thank you for being here. Show everybody your picture. Tell them about it.
So what happened? Did you keep it or kept somewhere?
Yeah, I just get the keep it.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations. Ms. Barlow, very hard. I'm gonna take a picture. Congratulations. Out of practice, Haley.
Haley, Haley, did you come down here and show Jess?
Yeah, take your time.
That is. What's it called?
Oh, this is my phone.
She did that on her phone.
Did it on her phone. You have a nice phone.
Wow.
And where is this located? Charleston, South Carolina. Northern one. Trees like that there? Was that a special one? That's cool. Neat. Good job.
Thank you very much. That's awesome.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we had two students represent Spencer County and Spencer County High School this summer at the National FCCLA Leadership Conference. So if Kendall Slaughter and Hadley Roberts would come on up. So these two are quite a thing, so bear with me. We've got some pretty cool stuff to share. So Kendall Slaughter was elected as the State Vice President of Finance for Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America in March at the State Leadership Conference. This is a huge honor. She is interviewed and elected by her peers. As a state officer, Kendall attended State Leadership Camp in June and the National Leadership Meeting in July. She will represent Spencer County as a state officer until April of 2025, where she will be one of 10 state officers leading to the entire State Leadership Conference. At the National Leadership Conference, Kendall also competed in the Nutrition Challenge Test. Students take an online test to demonstrate their knowledge of nutrition and their ability to apply that knowledge to real-life situations. Kendall placed 4th in the nation in this event. So I'm going to give her a hand. Okay, all right. I don't want people to mess my name. Hadley Roberts currently serves as the Region 6 President for FCCLA. Hadley competed at the National Leadership Conference in 2 areas. She completed the Professional Presentation Star event, where she advocated for family and consumer sciences education, placing 11th in the nation. Hadley also competed in the FCCLA Knowledge Test, placing 3rd in the nation in this event. Both of these students were chosen to participate in the FCCLA Disney Leadership Experience in October. Pretty big deal. In Orlando, Florida. They are 2 of only 240 FCCLA members who will be a part of that experience. And fundraising begins tonight. So Hadley, congratulations. Ms. Roberts is here. Ms. Roberts, would you like to share anything?
I'm just super proud of these kiddos. These 2 work hard every day. They're before school, after school, summers. They spent their entire summer on FCCLA. But there were 8,000 students at the National Leadership Conference, and we came home with 3 in the top 11 placements. Can't ask for much better than that.
That's amazing.
We have the regional president and a state officer, in this region with Jefferson County and Shelby County and Bullitt County, lots of big districts, and these 2, took home some significant leadership opportunities there. So super proud of these kids.
We're proud of them. All right, ready to get the picture. Congratulations. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This long will be next month, unless she switches chairs.
I did.
I'll bring the tall.
We can just keep moving Aaron down. We can do that. That's just fine.
Okay. Move on to citizens and delegation. We don't have anyone that signed up, I don't believe. So let's move to academic success and student achievement. Dr. Foster.
To start off the new school year, we have the fine folks from Spencer County Elementary tonight. So Mr. Scott, Ms. Dennis. Talk to us about amusing essays. E.
What's up? Do I try to touch it? We have the clicker.
I think you're working.
Okay. All right, you ready to roll? I'll let you start us.
Hello. So we are sharing with you all tonight emusing essays at Spencer County Elementary. And here in a moment, you will understand why our presentation includes an emu. So to focus on this, we wanted to incorporate our profile of the learner. And to do that, we tried to think of something that was currently going on in our school. And our second graders last week did a whole unit on emus. And so we, throughout this process, thinking about how we're going to share this, we were thinking about how they were active collaborators within this. So an active collaborator seeks ideas to encourage diverse community members. So we're going to share how our students did this. So I know that picture is kind of hard to see, but our students were able to collaborate with our student resource officer, Officer Rawlings. And so this is something that a teacher one day actually sent me pictures and wanted me to share out on our Thrill Share app. And I was like, Officer Rawlings owns emus. So it was something that I wasn't even aware of. But our students, this is something that they've done, our teachers have done the past few years. So they read Edward the Emu to learn facts about emus. And then the students were able to be active collaborators with Officer Rawlings because he owns emus. He got to come in and the students actually got to interview him in their classroom. And you'll see a little bit later that he also gave them the opportunity. He's going to bring in an emu egg here pretty soon. And they are very excited about that. So we have a short video to kind of share about how our students went through this process. So I'm going to see if I can. Do you want to click it?
You might use the remote. It's right there in front of you, Michelle.
You all have to read about Edward the Emu. So Ryder, what made that special? What was cool about learning about emus? What's something you learned about emus? Very cool. So throughout this learning experience, you all also got to work with someone. And who did you get to work with, Ryder? Okay, and you all got to be active collaborators with him by doing what? What did you all get to do with Officer Ross? Did you all get to interview him? And so how did that interview go? Okay, so with the information that you all got in your interview, can you give the microphone to Ellie? Ellie, what were you all able to do with the information that you all got from Officer Rawlings? What were you able to do with the information that you got from Officer Rawlings? Like, did he tell you facts about emus? Yeah, tell us about it.
He told us facts about emus, and also he said maybe in October or in November, he will bring us
Awesome. So I see you're writing here, Ellie. Could you share it with us?
Yes. Did you know what emus is? We have to learn more. Emus lay 5 to 15 grams of big eggs. They are omnivores, which means they live in insects. They live in Australia. They can run 30 miles per hour. Now you know what
That's okay. That's awesome. Did you draw that picture too?
Yes.
Very nice. Anything else that you all want to add about emus? One more thing.
eggs are 1 pound.
Oh, that's good stuff in there.
And also, the dad doesn't eat.
Okay, we can go to the next one. So what we did there, we started with something that, was very simplistic that second grade did to kind of start the year. But we connected it to all of the learners. So that's, we're showing that you don't have to go and have this grandiose idea. It can be something that you're already doing, plug in the connection for the kids, get them familiar with the verbiage. And then two, something that we're really kind of highlighting next to this is how we're really pushing writing at Spencer County Elementary, because we feel like, yes, we do a lot of cool, exciting, innovative things, but at the same time, we need to make sure we're focusing on writing. So now we're going to take one small event and talk about what we've done school-wide with our writing. So starting the 22-23 school year, we came in and we realized we had a problem. So at the time, Ms. Dennis was the instructional coach, and I said, we've got to fix this. Like, we got to get our writing to be top. And so what we started doing was we began a school-wide on-demand protocol, which we're going to look at in just a moment. We do an on-demand writing 3 times a year where we basically shut the school down, and we have K through 5 simulating what on-demand writing is going to look like. We have learning experiences for teachers to model. So what we're saying is anything you do, write about it. It could be as simple as just reading that book, but make sure you have writing incorporated. Make it fun, do all the things. Also, we teach pre-writing strategies. We're going to look at that in just a moment. We have proctors work with our ECE students, and we also really try to simulate time limits. We try to show students that how do you use the times that you're given, what do you do in each moment, things along those lines. So what we started doing in 22-23, so looking back now a couple of school years ago, it is one thing to have writing standards, and that's nice and beautiful, but I'm one that believes that you actually have to express to teachers exactly what we need them to do. And if we put that out there, they will do it. So what we started doing in our own verbiage is we just started saying, in kindergarten, what should writing look like? All the way to 5th grade. So we made a vertical continuum for our school so that we knew exactly, no questions asked, what was this cub at Spencer County Elementary expected to do by the time they left that grade level. It's very easy, and it's very, you can follow it, if that makes sense. And so then what we also did, and I know on the right it's a little bit hard to see, but we have a continuum for our paragraph writing as well. So exactly what will kindergartners be doing, and it's very explicit. It tells you exactly what they're expected to do all the way down to 5th grade. So there's no question, and the progression now that we're starting to see this a couple of years is really cool to see. We're united in our writing, so that's awesome. The other thing we do is when we have these on-demand days 3 times a year, we try to connect it to whatever obviously is going on in the student's life, because we know that a big part of writing is making sure kids are engaged and that they're familiar with what they're writing about. So what we do to see the vertical alignment, we try to make the prompts not only engaging and connect to their lives and what they're doing, but also the kindergarten prompt is going to mirror what the 5th grade prompt looks like, if that makes sense. So then when everybody gets done, we can look at the writing, and it's a really cool visual to see how did kindergarten do versus 5th grade, because not only are they doing on-demand writing, but essentially they're writing on the same topic to some degree. So the point that I'll show you there is like the kindergartners is, would you rather have a candy cane or cookie for winter break? Something very simple, but they know exactly what to do. Kindergarten teacher can go exactly over to the right and know exactly how they need to set their student up for success. 4th grade prompt. Many families in our community put trees in their homes during the holiday season. Trees can be real or artificial. Then they're asked to read an article and formulate an opinion. So you see how the two mirror each other. So then some data, because we all like data. Now we can't release our 23-24 data yet, even though we kind of know. But I want to show the progression of where we're at, okay? So in 21-22, we walked into a situation, we were 17% proficient distinguished. Simply put, that is unacceptable. That's not okay. We were 20% novice, and that's when I went to Ms. Dennis and said, hey, we're going to make this right at Spencer County Elementary. So the whole staff did a lot of work, and I can't commend them enough, but Ms. Dennis did a lot of work as the instructional coach to get all this rolling. So 22-23, We jumped from 17% proficient distinguished all the way up to 40% proficient distinguished in one school year. A lot of that was a product of starting this. We went from 20% novice, we knocked it down to 5% novice in one school year. So again, what we're doing is working, and we just want to continue that. Can't give you the 23, 24 yet. I guess that'll be officially in October. We can share that. But we do want to say that 24, 25, so this school year currently, when I write our CSIP, our goal will be to be at 67% proficient distinguished. So our goal is in a 3-year time frame to go from 17% proficient distinguished to 67%. And we feel like that is a very attainable goal because of what we put in place. And there you go. You all have any questions?
Questions, comments? Nice job.
Thank you all so much.
I love the connection to the profile.
Yes.
Simple conversation about an emu and what they can do.
Absolutely.
Students' interests. And I love the fact that our SROs are having meaningful opportunities with kids.
Well, and that's the other thing we wanted to highlight. Thank you all for giving us the SROs and funding that. Not only do they keep our schools safe, but just having a positive law enforcement personnel in our buildings. The kids adore Officer Rawlings. I can't say enough good about him. And you're right. We just took a simple moment. I mean, this happened within the first 8 days of school, to be honest. So it's just taking that and just making it go a little farther.
I like that you're paying attention to include correct capitalization, punctuation, grammar.
Yes, ma'am. We try to really focus on that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was going to say too is I really appreciate the jump to writing being so important into your all school curriculum now, because I feel like whenever I was in elementary school, which was however many years ago, whatever, I feel like there wasn't as much writing as you all were talking about, and like the curriculum stuff, like you were speaking about the time limits and the punctuation and the grammar and making sure all that is correct. That could have really helped be such like an advancement, especially since COVID happened too during my middle school career. I feel like it would have been a lot easier to do stuff like that. So I just wanted to commend you all on that. And I think it's really good that you all are really piping down on things like writing and the grammar, because it is a really important tool to have at such a young age too.
Like that on-demand writing is actually a real-world skill
Mhm.
that you're going to do for the rest of your life and your educational career.
Mhm.
Is you're going to be reading things and responding to it.
Yep.
So we feel like that is, a very important skill, and that goes along with our profile as well.
Absolutely.
There was a comment that you made about the writing and trying to make it fun.
Mhm.
And that is a real challenge because not every one of your kids loves to write. I had some kids who did not love to write. And if there is any way that you could make them more comfortable at that age, like Emma said, it could really make a difference when they hit the upper
Absolutely.
grades.
And we try to be thematic, like Mr. Scott was saying. So like, I think our first one around October is usually around Halloween candy or, things like
Yes.
that around Christmas. So we try to kind of put it around different holidays or things that kids are familiar with, because then they actually know what they're writing about as well. And it gives them confidence.
Something in which they are invested.
Right,
Yes.
like candy.
Okay.
Thank you both.
you. All right.
All right.
Down to academic report.
Yes. So Ms. Butler, our Chief Academic Officer, gave the board a little bit of an updated profile of a learner in July. She's going to take that another step this month and talk to you about really kind of how we've started the school year off and some of the things we're doing with our profile of a learner. Ms. Butler.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. I joked with Michelle. She kind of stole my thunder a little bit with the opening slideshow, but she did a lovely job. So I'm not mad at her about it. I love it. So just to kind of remind you guys of our profile of a learner, that was also a push this summer when we got teachers back in the building. I had these posters made, so hopefully you'll see these. We're going to get some. We have some in here that we're going to put in frames for us in here, but these are also all over the school. Hundreds of posters around, so we just have a nice uniform thing that's going to be seen in every school. So these are out and about each school. Got those, including our ELC in Hillview. We also are asking our teachers to incorporate the profile in a very strategic and purposeful way. So this is part of our unit and lesson plan alignment that I've highlighted here. So you'll see that they're not only looking at standards, they're not only looking at learning targets that the students are going to be focused on, and that being assign, attached to an assessment, but we're also asking what is the profile competency that's going to be related to that. They could have multiple, but we're asking for at least one focus there because it's not a hard task to do, and it kind of helps the teacher focus that vocabulary and those specific things with their students in those lessons. So that's also a part of their unit and lesson plans that they're going to be using on a daily basis. So just some of the things that we're doing around the schools so far. So you have your active collaborator. You have two elementary schools here working together. You have your high schoolers. They were, coming up with recipes and things. We had our effective communicator, people working in groups discussing things. There's Mr. Phillips talking to the student body. So being communicators not only with student to student, but also adults to students and students to adults are things that we need to remember also. Problem solvers. I don't know if people saw our new table we have at the high school. It's amazing. So students are able to actually look at a real life body. Some of us from central office got to go see it the other day. They're actual images of real people. So it's not like a cartoon body. It tells you a person. It gives you their history. As it loads one body system at a time. So there's one that Miss Campbell has shown us, like you can see the scar on the back of his head that he had. You can see one of the women had a bunion, and the kids are like, "What's wrong with her foot?" Like that was a bunion. So it's real life people that gave their body to science, and that so it's not just some kind of what somebody believes is an anatomical person. They're actual. So students are getting to look in there as they learn body systems and start being problem solvers with, and that's going to give them real life exposure to those things that they're going to see in the real life. Up in the right hand corner, I thought was cool using those different color post-its. They're actually creating a little track with that little car that you see there, and it was all about coding, which I thought was really cool. We have engaged citizen. So there in the bottom right, you see that's Officer Rawlings. They called it collaborator, which absolutely, again, everything can be linked to more than one, but really engaging our citizens into our classrooms about what's going on in our community. The top left, we had one of our high school students who's actually a Spanish speaker also came and read in Spanish to one of the elementary school classes. And then the middle school was engaging their whole community, and that's their house day where all the students got to pick which house they were in by a blind pick. So that was the kind of their celebration to kick that off. Sorry, I'm shivering. So if you hear that in the microphone, I apologize. We also have our empowered learners. So you have some studying there, our FFA team doing things this summer. A lot of them competed at the state fair as well. We have great co-op things going on. So we had a shout out, which talking to Ms. Slaughter about that, the county clerk did that. Like she wanted to recognize her because she's been such an asset. So that's one thing, we've been working with Leslie. Leslie's getting out in the community and get as many of our kids out and getting those experiences as we can. That's all I have. Any questions? Had a great start to the year, so we're hoping that continues.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Okay.
Mine. All right.
Ready for?
I hope so.
Okay. Ready for the superintendent's report?
Yes. So first and foremost, I want to start with gratitude. I think most of you probably saw on Facebook, we had an incredible opening day breakfast with our all of our staff, 480-ish. I think were in attendance that morning. So I want to publicly thank the Education Foundation for taking a little video that I got from an onboarding session and turning that into a reality here in Spencer County. One of the things that's really, really cool, Mr. Phillips helped me recruit a graduate who did a video for us. So a couple minutes there, it's linked there for you. I encourage you to watch that. But we had over 60 businesses, and I put them on my superintendent report because I wanted you to see them step up to sponsor a table. So in total, we had 80 tables. Every business did it their own way, but for me, it was very special that employees walked back into work on that Tuesday, whatever that day was, the 6th, I think. If it wasn't the 6th, it was the 5th. And just felt that somebody in our community cared about them. And I think that went a long way. So it was a great morning, and we're very appreciative to both the foundation and those businesses. So back to the normal stuff. We do have our first district PD day this Friday. I actually got to see a couple principals in schools this morning, and we're already picking their brains about how they're using Friday. It is very busy. They understand the value of those days and what can be done. So I'm really excited about that. And then obviously our teachers will get a 3-day weekend. So that'll be very, very nice. Next month, I did want to remind the board, we have kind of a little bit of a wonky work session and regular meeting split. Our work session is the second Tuesday, which is normal, but our regular meeting, we held off until the 30th. And that was to give Mr. Murphy as much time as possible for our working budget that has to be formally adopted in September. So we're going down to the final official day of September. So we'll work through that. Item 3 looks a little different from last year. It's recent and upcoming district leadership meetings. One of our points of emphasis with Mr. Rucker, Ms. Butler, and myself was to really valuable folks' time in and out of their building. So you can see we've had our first principal and program directors meeting of the year. Instructional coaches will actually meet tomorrow, and you'll see the upcoming schedule for assistant principals, which will now meet every other month. Our new teacher academy will meet monthly, but that's after school. And then our next principal meeting, and then counselors will have their second meeting in September. They actually met in July. For a growth plan, I'm very appreciative that the board made very clear for me things that they would like for me to work on for the coming year. So I do a growth plan just like every single employee in Spencer County. So my first goal will focus on the completion and implementation of a new strategic plan. Secondly is to revise academic spotlight presentations at board meetings to focus on profile of a learner. And that's been a very good process for us thus far. I did just want to share that obviously we talked about this in executive session back on July 22nd, and the board shared with me the things that they wanted to see growth in me as superintendent and specific actions completed for each one of those goals. So I will be bringing to go with that next month that will kind of lay out specifically what I'll do, the timeline for each of those. And then the last thing I shared with the board back in July, it's how I will continue to share evidence and artifacts with you starting next month, which will be standard 1 strategic leadership. So I'll take on 1 standard per month. That will take us through March of next year. In April, I'll review my PGP and the board progress goals, and then I'll do a capstone presentation just like I did this year, do that next May. So that will be my evaluation, the timeline for my professional growth plan for the coming year. Travel has been lighter, which is good. We've been very busy with the opening of school. We did have KASA back in July, finished up onboarding, and I had the pleasure and privilege to go see our FFA win some awards at the Kentucky State Fair a couple of Fridays ago. Mr. Phillips and I joined our students, and it was awesome to see them on the stage and their leadership and the pride they bring to our high school and our county. I did want to share with you our 10th day enrollment. Not going to lie, Mr. Rucker and I went down the path of a staffing formula and staffing plan for Spencer County. Much of that rested on the pressure of getting projections right and then verifying those on the 10th day. So I'm pretty proud of that. Actually, I'm pretty proud of Mr. Rucker because he did it. But you can see we have grown by about 25 students over what we projected. All of our schools are very much in line to the point we've really not needed to add staff. We actually worked with Mr. Scott and Mr. Mercer a little bit before the year proactively just so they could get a job posted and filled, and those projections came in right in line. So you hear Spencer County is growing. We are. Right now we're up about 25 students compared to what we projected to be. Last but not least, I don't think I could say this is my favorite time of year in regards to school accountability, because it's not. I could talk about accountability for hours, but I did want to share with the board the timeline for that. The nice thing is we've gotten into a little bit of a routine. Of course, I'm hearing rumblings that we're going to have a new accountability system, but we receive preliminary data at the student level where our building assessment coordinators were able to go in and clean up any student issues. You can see following that, there are some things that will happen. The long and the short and what everybody will want to know, on the 19th will be quality control day. That's the first time we will see and our schools will see really where they fall and score above the student level. So it will be school level data. That data will come out basically on October 1st and give us a couple days to see it and process it, and it will be released to the public on October 3rd. As most of you know, we are knee deep in I don't know what you could call campaign, for lack of a better term, but the reality of Amendment 2 being on our ballot, I shared with our staff some reminders on opening day about politics and not using our classrooms as a place to discuss those things. And Amendment 2 kind of falls in line with that. And I told them I wasn't worried about Amendment 2, but I was worried about what's going to be said during this window. And so I worry a little bit about data and how it's going to be used against schools and school districts. And I think it's important for Spencer County to brag on our kids and our schools and our staff because they work very, very hard. So I don't know that we'll do a lot differently than what we normally do in accountability release cycle, but I will make sure that loudly we tell the story of our kids and our schools because there's a lot of good things to share. So that's it for me. Questions, superintendent report wise?
How does the enrollments compare to our building sizes? Like, are we at capacity in our buildings?
With the exception of the middle school, am I correct about that?
We're over in 3.
Yeah. So the middle school, Mr. Truitt has the one group, if you remember, they're 7th graders now when the kindergarten birth date changed.
Okay.
So that's our anomaly in our whole district. We've got one a little bit smaller by about 30-ish, but the rest of our schools are over capacity, or right at or over.
Okay, let's move on now to actual discussion. Is there, board minutes, is there a motion to approve the July 22nd, August 24th, and August 13th minutes as presented in your packet?
I'll make that motion as presented.
Lynn, do I have a second?
Second.
Pam? Any comments or questions? All in favor? Unanimous? Move on to B, adoption of the 24-25 tax rate.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much else to say. We had a work session a couple of weeks ago on August 13th, I believe. And I again want to thank Mr. Murphy for his presentation this evening. So Madam Chair, if you're ready, I can just share my recommendation, but that's up to you.
Yes, go ahead. Is there one ready? No other comments or anything? Okay, please.
Recommend approval of a tax rate of 59.8 cents on real property plus the exoneration allowance of 0.2 cents, along with the tax rate of 59.8 cents on tangible property plus the exoneration allowance of 0.2 cents, while exempting aircraft, watercraft, and inventory in transit. Additionally, set the motor vehicle tax rate at 56.0 cents and set the utility tax rate at 3%. Note that the total tax rate on real property represents an overall decrease of 0.1 cents per $100 of assessed value. Likewise, the total tax rate on tangible property, 60.0 cents, represents an overall decrease of 1.6 cents per $100 of assessed value. The tax rate on motor vehicles, 56 cents, and utilities, 3%, represent no change in this tax rate.
Okay. Do I have a motion as stated?
I'll make the motion as stated.
Tim, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Aaron? All in favor? Unanimous? We'll move on to C, Spencer County High School extra service stipend.
So about a year ago, Mr. Scott and Ms. Jump kind of led the way with revising their stipends. And Mr. Mercer did so late last year, and then Mr. Phillips has had a chance to do that. His stipend list is a little longer than the rest of our schools, but he has worked very hard to kind of dig in and update some stipends and to do so in a cost neutral way. And I think he only gained $300. So I commend him for that. So his stipend list has been included for you. We have worked with him and communicated those changes. I don't know that there's anything else to add. Any questions about those? Mr. Phillips is here and I could answer most of them, I think.
And do we have?
I was a little curious. I noticed a discrepancy, like, oh, never mind. Retract.
Okay.
Sorry.
And your formal recommendation is, Dr. Foster?
Approve the revised list of stipends for Spencer County High School. The changes result in a net increase of $300.
Do I have a motion as stated?
I'll make that motion, Ms. Davis.
Lynn, do I have a second? Second. Pam? All in favor? Unanimous. Let's move on to D. Job description update.
Yes, at our July 22nd meeting, it said we needed to put the numbers in there. The board voted to create 2 new positions with our new organizational chart, a lead custodian and maintenance supervisor, which both of those kind of go back last year to the custodial challenges that we had. After internal discussions, we are offering the job descriptions below for your consideration. So you can see we are amending the lead custodian job, both the pay grade and the working days, and doing the same for a maintenance supervisor. I will say this, I want to commend Mr. Prather and our custodial team. Multiple people have talked about how clean and prepared our buildings have been this summer. So kudos to them. They do a lot in comparison to other districts with less that many other districts get. So this change in structure is pretty minimal, but one, as Mr. Rucker walked us through last year with custodial challenge, something we felt like would expand the capacity for our custodians and supervision and support, and obviously give our maintenance team a little additional supervision as well.
Any comments or questions? And do I have your formal?
Yeah, approve the job descriptions for a lead custodian and maintenance supervisor as presented. Note that the updated organizational chart was approved by the board in our regular July Board of Education meeting.
Do I have a motion stated? Aaron, do I have a second?
Second.
Lynn? All in favor? Unanimous. Let's move on to the maintenance truck.
I was prepared to talk about this one during the tax hearing. I was disappointed I didn't get to, but Mr. Prather is pretty frugal, which I like. We have a maintenance vehicle that's currently a 2008 Ford F-250, 199,000 miles, 199,441 miles to be exact. So he has looked and found a used vehicle for us. It's 5 years old. It's a 2019 Super Duty F-250, 14,000 miles. Mr. Prather, is that correct? For a purchase price of $35,000. So obviously this would update our fleet, and it is not wasteful. It is not going out and buying a $90,000 new vehicle, and I don't know that we could get a new one for $90,000, but one that should last us for a good while. Please.
It also has a Western snow plow, which is the same plow that we've already got on two of our other trucks. Savings was about $6,000 that we wouldn't have to purchase another plow. And it has something spreader with it also.
You have a good eye.
You're a
for
good
gardening.
shopper. I was gonna say, he's a
Yes.
good shopper.
I know, it's not the first time he's come up with something like that.
He's
I know
expensive
who
to talk
come
to. I'll
When I
change.
need.
He's expensive to talk to.
Say that with admiration, Mr. Prather.
Yes. Any other comments or questions? We have your formal.
Yes, ma'am. Approve the purchase of a maintenance department fleet vehicle to replace the 2008 Ford F-250 utility truck as presented.
Do I have a motion as stated?
I'll make that motion as stated.
Okay, Tim, second, Pam. All in favor? Unanimous? Let's move on to construction manager.
Yes, so Justin is here tonight for Sherman Carter Barnhart, but I want to share with the board in front of you, you actually have 3 former proposals from potential construction managers. We received 2 of these 3 today, and 1 on Friday. I may not have that time exactly, but really had thought about and planned on possibly voting on this tonight. However, my recommendation will be look a little different. 1, I think there's a potential of a 4th construction manager who might put in a proposal, but also to give you time just to look
I
through
would
that.
like
It is
that.
impressive stuff. It helped me, and I met with them individually. But it's nice to just read their different takes, to look at their pictures, to look at the information. So my thinking, if the board is willing, is to use tonight as an opportunity to give you the formal proposals and to give us until September 10th. So we could, at our work session, we could have any final discussion and formally vote on accepting of a construction manager. Would that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr.
I do have a recommendation if you want me to read it.
Okay, yeah.
Take 3 RFPs into consideration this evening with no action. You have individual copies of each RFP that has been submitted for your review. We can hold final discussions regarding potential construction managers during our work session on September 10th, 2024, and take action if the board is prepared to do so. I think you'll enjoy that, though. It's good stuff.
Yes, I think so. Okay. Okay, let's move on now to Spencer County High School RTI daytime ESS waiver position.
At some time in the spring semester, Mr. Phillips requested that we fund 2 instructional assistant positions for response to intervention from Title I. This is a simple ask. He is asking that we basically change one of those positions to be funded and paid out of ESS daytime waiver monies in lieu of Title I funds.
Any questions, comments? Good. We have your formal.
Yes, approve the request for Spencer County High School to move the funding source for 1 instructional assistant position from Title I to an ESS daytime waiver as presented.
Do I have a motion as stated?
I'll make that motion as stated.
Lynn, do I have a second? Pam, all in favor? Unanimous? Move on to construction invoices.
Yes, we have gone forward and done some renovation work primarily in kitchens and asbestos abatement, as you know, outside of our formal construction projects. And so simply need to pay 3 bills, 1 to Manning Brothers for kitchen equipment at Spencer County Elementary, a second for Manning Brothers for kitchen equipment at Spencer County Middle School, and then finally asbestos abatement and construction services at Spencer County Middle School. Mr. Rucker or Mr. Prather are both here if you have any questions specifically about what those are going to, but I believe all invoices are provided for you.
Any questions, comments?
Those are some high dollar equipment.
Yes, it is.
Do I have your formal recommendation?
Yes, approve the pay applications to Manning Brothers for Spencer County Elementary renovation kitchen equipment for the amount of $165,154.43, to Manning Brothers for Spencer County Middle School renovation kitchen equipment for the amount of $226,833.48, and asbestos abatement and construction services in the amount of $66,244.50 as presented.
That was updated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was. It was cheaper.
Yes, it definitely was cheaper. Do I have a motion as stated?
I'll make that motion as stated.
Lynn, do I have a second?
Second.
Pam, all in favor? Unanimous? Let's move on to approval of easement.
I'm proud to share we are about to make some progress on easements that have been a long time a coming, as they say. So before you, we have worked with the city for a sidewalk easement that we hope that sidewalk will come to life soon, and the county to connect to a sewer manhole that actually resides on Spencer County High School's property. So we have worked with Charlie Tishner and Grant Chenoweth, and we are now ready to approve those easements formally, and then they will then move on back to KDE for their final approval. And then Mr. Rucker could answer any questions that I might have left out. I think we've probably answered all that we can at this point.
It helps all these previous meetings and work sessions that it may look kind of rubber stampish, but we have discussed this.
Yes, we have.
A lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. So it really helps things move along. If I would quit chatting, it would go even faster. Okay. Do I have a
Yes, recommend approval of the easements to Spencer County Fiscal Court and to the City of Taylorsville as amended by Mr. Chenoweth, and authorizing their submission to KDE for final approval.
Do I have a motion as stated? Aaron, do I have a second, Tim?
Yes.
All in favor? Unanimous? Let's move on to the PA systems.
Yes, so I have communicated with the board over the last few days about the public announce system at Spencer County Elementary School. Essentially, that system has failed in 2 pods partially. So both pods have a common area where the speakers were working. One pod had 3 classrooms with no speaker. The other pod had 2, so a total of 5 classrooms. As of Friday, our maintenance department and technology department worked with the original engineer who put that in over 25 years ago and now have those working. That being said, we believe that solution is probably a short-term fix. They're working, but essentially they have spliced in, what is the term, Mr. Rucker, that you use? Daisy chaining? Never heard that before until last week. I call it splicing. He calls it daisy chaining. But in a nutshell, there is issues at the main hub of the PA system, whether that's lightning, power surge, we don't know. But that hub and the wiring need to be replaced. The one thing that is a reality is once we tear into the building for roof repair, ceiling grids, light fixtures, there's a chance that what we do to replace it could get damaged. So I do think it's a safety issue. I do think we need to go ahead and replace it. We have one price from ProSource that did the work in here, that did our vape detectors. We also have 2 other vendors that we are hoping to get quotes from that we could have as early as September 10th. Mr. Rucker, is that correct? I don't want to misspeak. Okay. So at that point, I think we could have a formal quote to you that we would ask to look into going ahead and accepting that and getting that work done.
It does keep rearing its head.
About 3 school years, I understand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I guess that's my question. So have we just been putting Band-Aids on it? Because I feel like last year it was going to be replaced with a new system, I thought.
yes. So honestly, what should have happened this year is with the bidding and the planning process to renovate Spencer County Elementary, it's going to be included in that. So by not accepting the bid and not doing the work, it didn't get done. So that's kind of what made it extend into this year. What Mr. Scott has taken on and done his own, which I applaud him for doing, was he got a separate system, kind of a 2-way radio system that got him through last year. But I don't know if it's the concrete in the building or just the age, but that wears out and quits working at some point. But it is fixed now, was verified Friday, verified again this morning. It is working, but it is spliced into other speakers. So it's not a permanent fix.
All pods can hear you if they need to.
As of this afternoon, when I did dismissal, everything is working beautifully.
Perfect.
Every area of that building, when I get on, or Ms. Dennis or whomever has access, they can hear about it here. So I command technology and maintenance and Dr. Foster. It is, at the moment, working beautifully.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Any more questions or comments? Can I have your formal?
Yeah, so this is an update under advisement this evening. The board will receive formal quotes as soon as our September 10th, 2024 Board of Education work session, along with a recommendation for action at that time.
So we don't really need to table, have a motion to table, do we?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Okay, move on to action by consent. We've all had a chance to review the consent agenda, and no one's asked to pull it. So do I have a motion to approve consent agenda as presented? Pam, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tim, all in favor? Unanimous. Let's move on to communications. Board members, any board members have? Emma?
I have one thing. So my little sister Addison Schneider is on the Spencer County High School dance team, and they had problems with scheduling. Hello. They've had problems with different scheduling issues, like who gets this gym at what time, and sometimes they'll be in the choir room at the middle school, or this place, or this place. They had apparently, which this is all me. She told me all about it, and I was like, because it I don't know, but anyway, she had told me that whenever you all had your opening day ceremony, which was beautiful, it was awesome. Seeing all those pictures online, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so awesome for the teachers. I was just like, they got all this stuff. They were so appreciated. But they apparently had scheduled the gym on that day, and they had walked in and all the tables were set up, and they were like, what the heck? What's going on? And one of the things that they were kind of frustrated about is it was their UDA dance wow, if I could speak, their UDA dance competition. So that was one of the UDA dance competition is a really big thing in the dance world. It's like basically the national dance thing. And these girls, they work really hard. I don't know. And they were really upset about it because one of the competition people, they drove up from Georgia to come and watch and rate their dancing and get them their ribbons, which is a big deal for all of them. And it's a big deal going into college, especially to have all the blue ribbons and to have all the things on your level. That's what like UK Wildcat dancers and the Ladybirds get, and people going into the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. That's all the things that they have. And these are some of these girls' aspirations and big dreams. So I guess what I'm asking is if we could have a clear system set up. I don't know how that would look or how we could fix that in the near future. But I feel like with all things, like even I remember one year, it might have been my middle school year, we had scheduled the gym for the all county choir concert. And the basketball team also had something scheduled in the gym, which that was how many years ago, you know, but still just little things like that, I think could make such a big improvement of how our teams and how our rehearsals can go and improve so much better. And just, it's just a little thing. Yeah. Collaborate. Thank you. Yes. If I could think right, you know.
So I appreciate you sharing that with us. I will definitely touch base with Mr. Phillips and Mr. Marksberry. My belief on that day, had we communicated and reached out, we have 3 other gyms. Actually, we have 4 because we could use the Cafe Gymatorium next door. So, you know, you're right. And I think the scheduling process and the issue, you know, using the facility, I think we set up furniture Friday morning, and then we broke it down Tuesday afternoon. So it was committed to that for, I guess, 4 or 5 days. So that's a fair point, and one that we should certainly be able to work through. So, but it requires coach, the athletic director, everybody kind of working together, making sure that we don't get in that spot.
I agree. And that could also have been a fault on the coach's part too. You never know. I just know that that's just the information that she told me. And she also had told me that they went to the separate gyms, and the only one that was like open, or there were whatever, I'm not sure the complications. I can always get that from her and text the coach, ask her anything. But they had found only the elementary school at SCES was open, because they went to TES because that's their normal meeting spot. Then they were like, okay, the middle school, because they have a bigger gym. And then they had to settle, which, no offense, not settle, that's a mean word, on the SCES gym.
Okay. But they did get to practice.
But they did get to practice, yes. So that's the ending thing. Everything worked out perfect.
Thank you, Em. Anyone else? Okay, move on down. SCEA is not here. And written communication, any discussion there? Move on to 11, dialogue and future agenda topics.
So we do have a packed agenda for our September 10th work session. We will be doing a construction manager conversation. We also have Mr. Chester is going to give our transportation annual update. And then Mr. Rucker is going to kind of walk us through some smaller construction projects outside of elementary and middle school. So pretty full agenda. And as you heard tonight, we'll also have some action with discussion items to consider that evening as well.
Okay. Okay, do I have a motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes? Aaron, do I have a second? Second. Lynn, all in favor? Unanimous? It is now 6:59, and I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will make that motion.
Lynn, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tim, all in favor? Unanimous.
Super.
But